Hello and welcome everyone, Lana here, and I'm joined by Legend of Total War,
Hey, how's it going?
Admiral Price,
Hello.
and Malakith Skadi.
Oh god, he's got a webcam.
Yeah, got his face this time, guys. You didn't get to see that last time. Look at that beautiful face. So yeah, we're back with the Total War Attila Roundtable review, discussing absolutely every single thing you could possibly think of Total War Attila. And last time we got up to diplomacy, I believe.
Indeed. We covered the war system, and we were talking about AI aggressiveness when we realized that this should probably be a multi-parter. Yeah.
Topped out about an hour last time, didn't it?
Yeah, it was about an hour, and we'd only gone about a single topic, and we were like, maybe this should not be a one-go thing. Under AI aggressiveness, I was particularly wanting to look at the effect of sacking and raising on the overall aggressiveness of the AI. In particular, because the AI will, in Rome 2, only certain factions could sack, and other factions basically just had to occupy. So barbarian factions could sack, but non-barbarian factions had to occupy. In the three different modes. In Attila, they made sacking and raising universal. And I just want to get a feel from you guys, what do you think of that mechanic in and of itself?
Okay, I'll jump in on this one. I think the AI doesn't use the mechanics at all very well, because for one thing, I noticed that sacking a settlement is almost worthless. It's only there to do damage to a city. It's not there for personal gain, because you will never make enough money to actually cover your own costs on a sack. And raising, it's just so seemingly random. Like, we see factions that are halfway across the map send one army down to an undefended settlement that's really not worth very much, sack it, and then go back home. Pointless.
Yeah, like march an army all the way across from Britain to Rome, then besiege Rome. Well, not Rome, because they'll never besiege a walled city. But like a city close to Rome that doesn't have walls, and then just sack it and go back to Britain.
Yeah, or not even that. They'll because the AI assaults in Attila, it's actually quite easy to defend a city, even if it's a full stack and you do end up losing, you'll do some significant damage to that army. That army will wander around aimlessly until you can be bothered to go and hunt it down, which really, there's no incentive to do so unless they're raiding, and even then, it's like, I'll get to that. I mean, there's other issues to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, from my experience with kind of the AI, oftentimes when I'm kind of expecting it to take my city and I'm going to have to fight back, take some land, instead they've just sacked it and they've just gone again. You know, fought a difficult battle or something like that. You know, as Legend was saying, you know, most of the time you can take out a full stack with the Garrison army if it's like a tier 2 city or something. Javelins up on a barricade can destroy 3 or 4 units easily as they come on in. But yeah, I've never really very rarely have seen the AI actually kind of take territory. Because I mean, I've got to admit, even with the factions that like some of the Viking forefathers that have a bonus to sacking, that kind of make it just about break even depending on the amount of damage you've done to the city. The only time I really sack is if I'm playing as a migratory faction and just sack and raise. If you know, I'm not bothered in settling down there, and that works out quite well. But yeah, apart from that, I don't get why there is such a heavy focus on the AI. I mean, I guess I could get them sacking and then maybe taking it a couple of turns later, but just sacking and then going back home as if they're done with their campaign. It doesn't make that much sense. I'd love to see them try and just take settlements a lot more.
Just a small note on the sack and raise thing. I don't see why that's a thing you should do, because like you walk up to a city and you can just raise it, but why don't you sack it first then raise it? So it just seems like a completely.
That's what I always do. Sack and raise.
either make it so you sack it and that's the only option you get on that city for that turn, and maybe you get more money for doing that, or you raise it and burn it all to the ground, so you're denying it to them. Why have this? You can sack, then you can raise. It seems a bit superfluous and a bit weird, and I don't know. To me, it just seems
Best
a
of
bit
both
gamey as
worlds.
well, because it's why I didn't really try and do it unless I was desperate for money, because it's just a bit cheap, really.
Yeah, and even then, like, only if the settlement is really, really built up are you ever going to get any sort of money that's going to be worth it. I mean, a lot of times you're sacking a settlement, you might get 1,000 or 2,000 talents back, but your army upkeep costs are like 3,000, and that's for the low-tier units. You don't even cover your own costs, which to me seems ridiculous when you sack a city. I mean, armies like Attila, the Huns were able to keep getting richer and richer and richer from sacking, but you just can't do that in Attila. It's just not an option.
One
Yeah.
problem that I think that the sacking mechanic brings in, which I think is particularly troublesome, and in fact I think made my entire Western Roman Empire playthrough even possible, was the fact that the AI is so intent on sacking and raising, it never grows its own territories. And what that ends up happening is that in previous Total Wars, you would basically have a one or two factions in the east, west, north, whatever, become big, and then you would become big, and then there would be a giant clash at the end. There's no clash in the end, because they're so focused on sacking and raising that they've destroyed everybody else, but they're still a 3-province minor.
The only time you do get a big fight is the Sassanids, because they've got their 6 stacks and each of their little client states has got their 3 or 4 stacks. That's the only time you get it, and then it's cheesy as hell
The
because
exception, right?
yeah, it's one exception, and it's cheesy as hell because they just print money from their client states to
Yeah.
endlessly build armies instantly.
I mean, yeah, really. I mean, I guess it comes back to the whole thing that, you know, Attila isn't an empire building game; it's a survival game that they've created. Yet, I think a lot of us just would prefer to play it as an empire building game because the sacking mechanic and the amount that the AI raises. You know, they're not interested about building up territory. They're not interested about building up empires. They're going in to screw you over so that you have fewer territory, so it's harder for you to survive later on. And as you said, yeah, the Sassanids are pretty much the only faction that do play that traditional, structured build up an empire, just sit there with all your satrapies, and then, you know, you have a good fight against them at the end. Pretty much they're the only ones that are guaranteed to have a nice big clash right at the end with them, or, you know, it's probably worth saving them to the end, otherwise there's not a lot of end game, because either you've got like hundreds of desolate regions where the Huns have swept through and just razed everything, and either you're broken by then or you've managed to survive and somehow create an empire out of a survival game, basically. I mean, it offers something different, which, you know, I quite like the idea that you've got to survive rather than just do the same thing that we've done for the last 15 years of build up an empire, be the biggest empire, kill all the other empires, you win. But I don't think it's not been. There should be more path to spread off. It should be able to support you wanting to have an empire, and it should. Because, I mean, the thing is, though, this time period, okay, isn't associated with big empires. Jump forward 500 years and you have the full establishment of what will be the medieval kingdoms of Europe. It would be nice if they, you know, because obviously they don't stick to history, it's all counterfactual stuff that allows you to do whatever you want, but it would be great if maybe they brought in some of those systems into Attila so that, you know, if you go, yeah, I'm done surviving, you know what, actually, I've got the strength now to grow, let's create an empire. It'd be great to see some of the AI actually going, yeah, let's create an empire, we survived long enough. We've faced
make it that bridging game between Roman and medieval.
Yeah, I mean, not even talking about expanding the timeline, but just mechanic-wise, actually enabling you to go, yeah, for the first 100, 150 turns, I played a survival game. Now I've survived, I'm going to build an empire. But it never really... Because, I mean, the corruption mechanic that we talked about last time... Did we talk about it last time? Or?
Yeah, we talked about the corruption mechanic last time.
That, you know, that cripples empires, so that, you know, that kind of keeps it in check. It never really lets you push on from that, and I kind of feel that it just keeps you in this realm of pure survival.
But the question I think then is, if it's supposed to be a surviving game, are they using the mechanics of an empire building game to create a survival game? In which case you have a design which is not compatible with the base game itself. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was an interesting concept that just didn't work. Just doesn't work.
I think, good idea, good concept, and yeah, it needs some tweaking for the whole thing to work, because I think because there is no, as I said, there is no end game. You know, there is no option. What happens after you finish surviving? Can you prosper? No, essentially, because corruption screws you over. Or, you know, just the state of the campaign map by then is one of destruction and, you know, desolate regions. So
I totally agree with you. I just want to make one adjustment to what you're saying there. You can actually build an empire. However, you have to take certain things into account in this game. Corruption is going to be so high that you can never access your higher tier units.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Like,
and
you want to build an empire, you need to use rubbish troops.
Yeah,
because there's no way. Yeah.
And without using a mod, you can't access those lower tier troops once you've upgraded your technology. So unless you keep all your armies low tier from the start, and don't upgrade, then that's quite a a tough option, especially when you're coming up against tier 3s and things like that later on.
But touching on the next topic vaguely, if you've got sort of a corrupt, call it crippled if you like, nation, and you're trying to wipe someone out, that would be a great point for them to throw in some proper diplomacy stuff. You ally up with the other little factions that are just about surviving next to you and go crush the big guy in the corner. But diplomacy is just non-existent.
That is, I think, that's actually a really that's a very nice segue to our next topic, which is the diplomatic dynamism. And I was going to make a video / blog entry about diplomacy, and I think one of the major problems that we have with diplomacy is that there's really only two states of affairs in the entire diplomatic system. It is, you are either at war with somebody or you are at peace with somebody. There's no complication to it. There's very few intricate webs of alliances. There's no alliances based not on mutual friendship but on mutual hate of somebody else. There's no wars that have particular goals in mind. It's very much, you're either in a state of total war, which means the end goal is annihilation, or you are in a state of peace. And how do we move? Well, first, how does that play out in Attila? And does Attila do anything differently than previous Total Wars in this?
I would say it does not do anything differently. There's nothing in Attila that we haven't seen before. I'm sure we can all agree that having a client state is almost pointless because you're guaranteed to lose it for no reason. They will just declare independence because it's been 3 turns or whatever since you subjugated them. And then you get to a point where you think, why did I even bother subjugating these guys in the first place? They were paying me 100 per turn, and now I have to go back again to kill them. So I'm just going to raise their settlement. Because there's no point occupying it, because that'll cripple me as well. So you just end up with this border around yourself that's completely desolate, and you just end up, I don't want to even know my neighbors. I don't want any neighbors, because they're all annoying. Peace is annoying. War is annoying. Subjugating them is annoying. There's no option that you want to have with your neighbor. So the option is get rid of your neighbors.
Burn them.
Burn them.
Yeah, no, totally. With that beautiful raising animation. The animation for raising is incredibly awesome.
Yeah, I do really like the nuclear blast that you get on every territory when you set it to go. I mean, Yeah, that's really nice. But yeah, they're definitely just echo what Legend said. You know, it's not offering really anything new. Diplomacy wise, there's no new options there that we haven't already seen before in some form or another, which is a shame because it doesn't need to become overcomplicated like a grand strategy, but it could do with a few more options on there at least to just branch off alliances, have different impacts for how you interact with other factions. There's more surely talking to another faction than finding out if they want a non-aggression pact, a trade agreement, or if they want to marry a daughter off to you, basically. I'm sure there's better things to talk about.
Totally useless. It's just like they put it in for the game just to put it in for the game. It does nothing. It's like, oh, we married your daughter. I'm still going to declare war on you straight away. You're going to have no diplomatic repercussions.
Actually, I have had one good experience with marrying off daughters. In my Saxon Let's Play, I managed to marry my daughters off to Attila. And I'm really good relations with them at now, like 300-400 or something. I mean, to be fair, they could just turn around because they're the Huns and just start wiping me out. But right now, I quite like the fact that I've got these hounds running wild, just raising everything in front of me, which actually screws me over because I need the land they're raising. So, but it's a twist. It is something different. But
yeah, I ended up marrying in my Eastern Roman Empire campaign. I ended up marrying my daughter off to Attila the Hun. No, sorry, I got Attila the Hun's daughter. And
nice.
Yeah, for my emperor, and I'm married into the Huns, and they've been really good in-laws so far.
Oh, great! Yeah, they always turn up at birthdays, and
they don't interfere very much. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. And in my Hun campaign, maybe I just have really bad experiences with this kind of thing. But in my Hun campaign, I tried to get Attila married about 10 times. He died alone with no offspring.
Oh,
sad and alone.
Nobody wanted to marry the king of the world. Nobody wanted to even sleep with him. He had no bastard children. He died with no heirs.
Wow.
See, I don't believe you're playing Attila now because you just said there's no bastard children. I just don't.
There's bastards everywhere.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he was the only one in the Hun tech tree, family tree that was a virgin when he died.
Had he somehow been castrated? I've got to admit, I do love that option that you have that, but I don't understand that because really, I guess it's purely motivated out of fear that you become more loyal to someone. But to be fair, if someone chopped off my balls, I'm not going to be like, I will now worship you as my new master.
Interestingly enough,
plus
actually,
10 loyalty.
A lot of very loyal Byzantine generals, and this was a classic Byzantine and Persian tactic, was some of the most loyal people in their courts were eunuchs. And I've never understood that myself, how you could be really loyal to the people who castrated you, and yet that actually seems to be historically very accurate.
Yeah, guess
I think you need to cut the balls off at a very young age before they understand the pleasures of what having balls are like.
Maybe back then it was more like we've found a really good physician who can reattach them for you if you're loyal to us for like 20 years. You can have your balls back here in a jar.
I don't think anyone's that stupid.
Keeping them in like a little jar with your name on it.
Yeah, look, you've performed your years of service. Here, have your balls back.
So instead of the Roman thing with like a few acres and like a farmland, it's like, no, you get your balls back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just like we've just been looking after them for you. Put them on ice.
You don't want the enemy to get your hands on these,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, better us keep hold of your balls than the Huns. I mean, Christ, they'll probably put them in a stew. There's a bollock stew going on over there at that Hun encampment. Christ, some good eating, right? No?
So,
yeah.
Yes,
Where were we?
Some subject states, I think.
Subject states. I think we already touched a little bit on subject states. I remember I had 400 relations with the Gaul. And then they rebelled the next turn. They were defensive in their temperament. They were loyal in the personality, and yet they just went, we don't want to be part of your empire anymore.
But look, you gave them so much stuff. They're having such a good time. It was partying all around, and then someone just made a suggestion. And, well, it just went too far. and they
No,
ended up in an
it's like
independence
this.
war.
Have you guys seen that episode of South Park where the economy is going to hell? And I can't remember the exact details of it, but the way the decisions were made were this like trying spinny wheel with a bunch of different options written on it. And what they do is they cut the head of a chicken, put the chicken on the wheel, and spin the wheel, and whatever the chicken lands on, that's what they do. That's what happens in Attila.
I'm pretty sure though on that wheel for client states, independence, 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 stay loyal, independence, independence, independence. So there's like
Pretty much, yeah.
1 in 12 chance to stay loyal every time you click enter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like reverse Russian roulette.
Yeah, pretty much.
Stay royals at the top, and then they've got a weighted arrow so it never lands pointing upwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
I do think though that
just
one more thing.
No, go for
I
it.
do think that the chance of them actually declaring war on you when they're a subjected nation does actually depend on the balance of power. So if you're weaker than them, they'll declare war on you, even if they like you. But if you're vastly stronger than them, they'll still declare war on you, but they'll think about it for a few more turns.
Yeah. Do we really want to? They'll spin the dial like twice more. Spin the chicken. Just see what happens.
Yeah.
It's a side.
They're just a little bit unsure about it. Yeah, look, we'll still do it because he's at war with like 3 other people. And we'll sack his settlements and then do nothing else.
Yeah, exactly.
Hang on. One thing I do have to point out: you go make a new client state by freeing someone. They've got no food buildings, no sanitation buildings, no happiness buildings. Yet somehow they've turned later. They've got 2 full stack armies they're quite happily supporting, running off across the map.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell?
AI bonuses. Yeah.
Yeah. Is
AI
there?
bonuses are AI bonuses.
Can I segue to the next one?
Fadal.
I just wanted to say, in my Vandal campaign for the last Roman, when I got to 40 settlements, I annexed the Visigoths, and I checked all of their buildings. They had no food, no public order buildings. It was all just military building here, military building here, military building here, military building here. My food was cut in half by annexing them. They could not have supported themselves if they were a human player, but as a AI player, they don't play by the same rules. They just don't need to.
Okay, so segueing onto the next topic, which is agents. There's all these lovely options like deploy agent here, and you can incite corruption or upset the public order by -5. Oh wait, AI bonuses give them +70.
Yeah.
Points of having that at all as an option.
Yeah.
0.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no.
One thing I want to ask you guys: have you in Attila been able to successfully manipulate another agent over to your faction? I've achieved it once.
I think I should answer that question because there was a point. Yeah, Legend knows where this is going. I ended my Western Roman Empire campaign with 30 priests and 25 spies. I had a spy deployed in investigate corruption in every one of my provinces, and I converted the Sassanids to Latin Christianity using their own priests.
How? Because I can't seem to get them to manipulate at all. It was like finally managed to do it. I mean, I've got all the got some really high level agents. I've got the right skills in there.
It really snowballs. So the first thing to take a note is you have to get your spy full cunning, as much cunning as possible, and then double extort, and then you go after priest with your spy. You get full zeal on your champion with double oppress, and then you go after enemy spies. And on your priest, you go after priest you can go after everything. And the full authority and just spam it because going full authority gives you a bonus on critical success chance rate. So once you get your priests rolling, it just turns into a giant snowball. There was at one point where I was getting at least 2 priests every turn because I had a whole bunch of these really high-level priests standing near Sassanid territories.
Maxed out on authority.
And every turn they would recruit another priest in both their territories.
I would have though is that whenever you know how you go in to recruit your agent and it says how much cunning, zeal, and authority they have, and it shows what traits that they've got. Problem is, the moment I ever recruit one, it's revealed that they suddenly have Down syndrome. Or gold or something like that. Instantly, all their stats go down to 1, and I go, "Oh, what? That didn't tell me about this. You didn't trait Down syndrome. You thought that would have been obvious in the job interview."
That's like an arranged marriage, where it's like the girl's sitting there with like the thing covering her face, and then you lift it, and it's like, she's got like a giant beard, and like 2 teeth, and
marrying Gollum.
Yeah, and she's called Derek.
And she's called Derek. Yes.
Yeah. Derek the Hun.
Derek the Hun, a very prolific Hun leader. I'll have you know.
It's basically that's true. Yeah, you end up recruiting an agent, and then it turns out that he fell on his head when he was a child. He has a giant indent.
Yeah.
It's a stupid trait or something like that.
Made apparently the moment you hand over cash to him. Oh, by the way, I'm really, really dumb. Oh, great. How am I going to get you to succeed in your first agent action in order to get you to level 2? Send you over to what's it called, to disrupt a settlement, or what is it, to disrupt an army. 10% chance of success, 50% chance of being wounded. I'm just going to disband you. Just pointless.
And they don't even die. They don't even die if you try to get them to kill up. Wait, you can disband units? I mean, agents?
You can disband agents, yeah.
No. Really?
Yeah, just click on the unit card and disband.
I've been hanging on to my retards for like the longest time.
Along with all the balls, right?
Along with just
the thing is, I would have disbanded my retards,
out of it.
It just would have given me more.
Oh dear.
Oh man. But the mentally challenged ones do make good bait for enemy agents. You just send them out.
But that's the main reason I use them for. I used to just keep them hanging around, like orbiting my armies, hoping that the enemy agents would actually assassinate my agents instead of my generals, because I didn't like. I lose a champion. It's okay. He had Down syndrome. I'll just hire another one.
Speaking of assassinations, the AI does way too many of them. In the last, 3-4 episodes of my Alliance campaign, I was losing 3-4 generals a turn. I was very happy for all those bastard children.
I lost my my faction's king, the emperor of Eastern Roman Empire, Flavius Arcadius Augustus, and then we did like a little memorial for him and everything. Yeah, because he was amazing. He burned down the entirety of Persia and rebuilt the empire. It was amazing. But yeah, I lost him to a random agent action of a faction that had no provinces, and its only horde was in the water. And it was, I don't know, the way that the AI goes about with its agents is full annoy tactics. It's not they're not a part of a plan. It's how can I annoy the player most.
Yeah, I've been saying that for ages. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. They have no interest in thinking, oh, how can we get more power? They just think, okay, we've got this much power, let's annoy them this degree. And the thing is, if you send an army to go and get rid of them, what they do is, okay, let's hide somewhere and then re-establish ourselves and then annoy them more.
So what you're saying is these agents are highly trained YouTube commenters.
Yeah, they're trolls. Every AI faction in Total War Attila are actually trolls. They're really, really dumb. They're just there to annoy you. Like, you'll defeat them, but they're so annoying because they keep coming back.
We should make a mod where we replace every faction's name with somebody who trolled us on one of our videos. So,
there's not enough factions.
There's
You guys know who you are.
Just rotate them now and again,
Rotate them in.
This is the first season's roster, then we'll rotate it to the next.
Have them as like family members. the whole family tree just full of trolls from YouTube.
See, that would encourage me to actually play the family tree game, and then they're
You
assassinating
just assassinate them all, yeah.
Wait, you assassinate all your family members?
If they were those guys, probably.
Oh.
Just castrate them all.
You know, that is
Wait,
actually...
you guys get trolls? I never get trolls.
That's because you don't read your comments.
Yeah. A bit under the video, mate.
Yeah, pretty much. So I stopped reading my comments, yeah.
Although I found, I think 3 years ago, you commented on one of my Medieval 2 videos. I was very happy seeing that.
Me?
Yeah, you. It was when I fought the Mongols, and you gave me like a suggestion on it. Anyways, moving on.
And that's Rich coming from me, who says to his subscribers, "Don't ever give me a suggestion. I will hate you if you do it."
You
It
start
came
off
across
like
because-
5 minutes in one of your videos going, "Don't give me advice. I hated advice. Stop giving me advice."
It's because I get so much and it's conflicting advice. Like, I just get so much conflicting advice. I just stop it. I can't handle it.
Hey,
I
guys.
don't want to listen to this anymore.
He doesn't like advice, and he doesn't have trolls. You know where to go.
Yeah, guys from our videos, our channels. There's a new home for you. The Promised Land.
Oh, please. Like, I don't already have enough temper tantrums.
More.
Okay, so segue into politics. So, was
What
politics? Okay, that basically answers my question before I ask it.
Done. Next topic.
I'm gonna go with the theme of
You mean
use it.
political
What's the point?
officers that you never go for because they're useless?
Yeah.
Just
I think
all the
A
time-
political office that'll give you +5 influence per earning situation. Cost you 50 influence. You'll never have 10 earning situations in your 8 terms office.
I will say though, the UI is beautiful. The politics UI, very intuitive, very beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's
You
definitely.
didn't have a wide enough family tree then, and I am fed up with scrolling.
That's kind
I'm
of
glad
like
you can
saying,
about
like, what you just said is kind of like going to a restaurant that's got really nice pictures on the wall, but the food had like bugs in it, and it was like just made you have diarrhea. Like,
Every Chinese
the food was
restaurant I've
awful,
been
the
to.
service was terrible, but I really liked the pictures on the walls.
But
I
I
didn't
like
go
the
there for the
pictures.
pictures on the walls.
I like the pictures. I wouldn't necessarily
You
go
wouldn't go
back,
back
but
there
the
and eat
pictures
there
were
again.
nice.
It's like, I like looking at the pictures, but I don't want to touch them because it's sticky.
What
But
type of pictures you seen in your restaurants, bro?
I don't know, they're like really dank places, but they've got nice pictures of food on the wall. But yeah, they like. The only time I found them really useful was with the Huns, where I could actually, with the traits and a bit like retainers that I could give to my generals, I could actually make it so I could just recruit the highest tier experienced cavalry, pretty much straight away by just putting one of them into the right political office and things like that. Things for like upkeep and like reducing upkeep's quite good, but. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, especially when you've got to try and keep the power bar sort of roughly level or whatever, constantly spending all the influence of your good generals, which are normally the ones from your own house, on that just diminishes their own influence. So you're more likely to get contenders from outside your family, which just sets it all off. I really I like that I can see where my family has come from and where it's going, but that's about it.
In a 125 episode campaign, I did not look at the power and control bars once.
Yeah, I forget about it. Like, I was like, oh wait, it's been 20 turns since I last checked politics. What's going on? Oh, nothing. No one's got any political officers. Suddenly, there's nobody in government, and the country is running just fine.
I think I obsess over every mechanic, so I definitely played around with the politics system. And if you have the goal to keep your influence in a certain area and to fill out the offices, it can be really challenging to balance everything and constantly to keep everything as it should be. The problem is that whether or not you do it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. I've got the same mindset. I quite like keeping it within a certain bit, but at the end of the day, really, it doesn't matter too much. The only times I've had like a civil war something is when I just had the loyalty of a general from outside my family go too low, and I haven't had enough influence to secure his loyalty, or it's gone wrong and my wife's been killed and suddenly my faction heir is dead. I've had some really, that's my favorite part of the kind of family tree interaction. I've had some really good like revenge assassinations from me trying to secure loyalty or assassinate someone's wife or
balls off, bro.
Yeah. Well, I got
I'd kill you too if you
in my Danes Let's Play. I got one of my really good generals' wives who had loads of influence spare to try and assassinate a really rogue general outside the family. I killed him with the wife, but then apparently I get a message the next turn saying that supporters of this other general I just killed went and killed my wife. Which really upset my general, so he started getting really low loyalty, and then I tried to secure his loyalty, and it ended up with the option of blinding him or castrating him. I was like, you're a really good general, if I blind you, you're crap, I'm going to chop your balls off.
And then he killed your emperor's wife.
I think you just identified the problem. It's that if you start with the system, it has repercussions on you and you get involved because that sort of stuff happens. If you don't touch it, it doesn't do anything to you.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
I didn't assassinate any of my other political members, and I never had any issues. That's the problem. Like, if you do anything, it has a almost worse repercussion. Let's talk about embezzlement. You click embezzlement. Chances are, if you're going to get caught, it's going to make everyone in your own faction hate you, but if you succeed, you get enough money to do nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, there is an achievement to get $10,000 in embezzle actions, and I have to say, since you get like 500 per action, if you're lucky, that's like at least 20 actions, and each one costs what, 30 influence? It's insane.
Roughly.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That will take forever.
It's like 50-50 chance of getting caught. I mean, I used to embezzle a lot in my Western Roman Empire campaign because I was desperate for money, and I didn't get the achievement because I didn't get to 10,000 because it's too risky. It's like, okay, I'm going to risk everything for 500 talents.
For 500 talents, yeah. If the reward was greater. What I would like to see is, from the embezzlement thing, is if it worked kind of like, and this is a completely different game, but kind of like Tropico system, if you've played Tropico, where you can get money in your slush fund, and what ends up happening is you can then use this money. The money is different from your treasury. It's like you have a slush fund account, and then you have your treasury, and then you can use the money that's in your treasury to upgrade the characters in your family tree with different things. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
If it mattered.
I guess. Yeah.
But how do you make politics matter? That's the question. I mean, somebody said, "Oh, you don't give suggestions." All right, so suggestion time. How do we make politics matter?
We make the officers, for one thing, actually mean something. Like, I think in Rome 1, they had political officers that actually were good. That actually provided influence. It wasn't like, and you couldn't just, you could sort of bribe your way into office, but like you wanted to be there. And also, if you were like ex-consul, you retain some degree of influence. If you were censor, you became a better administrator, and that actually did something. Like if you were in a settlement, it would increase the amount of income. It wouldn't provide some sort of arbitrary bonus, like to get to what is called Master of Horse. You get +3 influence per earning situation. I mean, there's also the extra experience per cavalry unit, but I don't know. I never really took much interest in that. But I think the political officers in Rome 1 were on the right track, and then they just never expanded that at all. Actually,
go ahead.
I was actually thinking about Empire Total War. They kind of were scratching the surfaces of a good political system because the cabinet that you have in your government in Empire Total War was extremely important. You had to have a good cabinet. It made a huge difference. They just never expanded that.
Yeah, that is true. That's definitely true.
Yeah, I really like the cabinet system, the way that you could choose bring different cabinet members in and out, and also you were restricted on whether you had free roam of removing them or putting them in, depending on whether you had an absolute monarchy or democracy or what have you, and that whole voting system. I think actually that was probably stronger than what we currently have in terms of it. It just worked, and yeah, I mean you could play the whole game without looking at the politics. I think that's probably a trend actually. Yeah, you don't. I don't think any Total War game so far you really need to touch the politics system that much, but at least there were some slightly more reasonable kind of bonuses, especially like economy and justice wise, yeah, and penalties, yeah, if you got the right or wrong cabinet member. Yeah, definitely, good shout there.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Empire Total War I think has the best politics, which is weird because Empire Total War is almost synonymous with the dark age of Total War.
Oh, Empire was interesting. Empire was a fascinating experiment.
New engine, lots of new problems.
Oh man, my favorite is when the AI would run into range and then just start shuffling its troops while getting shot, and then once the entire they've lost half their men, they would just charge. Anyways, the nightmares from Empire.
Did you know about the cannon exploit?
What's up?
The cannon exploit. If you had cannons and they didn't, they would always march towards you.
Oh yeah.
All you had to do was drop your cannon, and they would walk away. And then as soon as they get to a certain distance, you'd reattach your cannons again.
Wow.
This is how I blitzed it. I did Empire Total War in 8 turns,
Christ.
All settlements in 8 turns. That game was so full of exploits. It was like the game they made for Legend.
It's a shame though, because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I always see it very popular with viewers and stuff doing a series on it, just because the scope and scale of it is the largest of any game.
Right.
I'm sure they'll revisit it at some point, but just that sense of scale, it just tried to bring in way too much in one game, so that kind of none of it was really as high a quality as we'd have liked.
The biggest problem with Empire is that it was the one, what's it called, the successor for Medieval 2, which is arguably the best Total War that they've ever released.
I'll second that shout actually.
Yeah.
It was such a huge fall.
And especially going from one engine to another engine, and then trying to mess around with that, and
the problem is though, you go back a couple of years where they went from Medieval 1 to Rome 1, which was probably the most orgasmic experience anybody has ever achieved in Total War. The jump from Medieval 1 to Rome 1.
That's true. It was significant. It was a significant improvement over Medieval 1.
I lost weeks of my life because of that game. I regret nothing. I lent the game out to a friend of mine. We didn't see him for a month. And next time we saw him, he was just muttering urban cohort, urban cohort, urban cohort.
Okay, so
the best eyes we've ever seen. Anyway, continue.
So we've been through agents and politics. I think the basic consensus we almost came to with politics was that it's really fun when you start tinkering with it, but it matters very little altogether. And so we have to make it matter. It has to matter for it to be actually worthwhile to spend time into.
You can't have a feature in a game that doesn't matter.
Yeah. I feel like though with most of Total War, there's only 2 things that matter. And that's the declare war button and the sign peace button, and that's about it.
I was actually going to say that. Those are the only 2 diplomatic options that I use. I'm pretty liberal with the declare war button, and I'm pretty sparing with the peace button, though.
Don't forget the raise button. That's an important diplomatic one now.
Chop off balls.
No, that comes under family politics.
Aww. Should be on diplomacy.
I will give you my daughter and $10,000 if you give me your emperor's balls. You should be able to demand balls in peace treaties.
Use it as ransom. Shogun too.
Give you your balls back.
Yeah.
Instead
I
of
heard that's a pretty good surgeon.
Have you put it on ice? You can reattach them, right?
No, don't they keep it in alcohol?
Yeah, it'd be fine. Like
Just
pickle
give it
it.
to the Egyptians. They know what to do with that stuff.
pickled testicles with names on the jars.
Yeah, the problem is that they might use it in a feast.
Oh, special ingredient for the stew tonight.
What? These weren't ox testicles.
Does anyone want a pickled onion? Oh crap!
Well, we just fed all of our guests pickled emperor testicles.
Yeah,
Oh, well.
yeah. Nice.
They weren't bad, actually.
Yeah, they
we
were
should get some more of
yours.
these.
Let's feed them their own balls.
Okay. So, second unicism tangent finished. Let's go to the army management. In Rome 2, they introduced the mechanic of the generals having to be like the army being attached to the general. What do we think of that mechanic as it is still in Attila?
It's good and bad at the same time, the army management. Yes, I think it's important that every army should have a general, because in Medieval 2, I used to just, we could have captains or whatever, and I'd just send out one unit to go destroy something, which kind of makes sense that you wouldn't normally do that. But at the same time, you can't sort of just split your army off into two groups, which would be really useful when you're trying to hunt down the last remnant of something, and you just can't do it because you can't. Every single unit has to be attached to the general. They just can't. They can't break off. And a problem with the recruitment is that there is no unit pool. You'll just recruit whatever's available. Like you could, if you have available to Praetorian, well, I got 5 recruitment slots. I'm just going to recruit 5 Praetorians. Whereas in Medieval 2, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You have to go what's available. Yeah. That's yeah. I mean, I've got to admit, I agree with Legend. I mean, when I first sort of heard about it in Rome 2, I wasn't that thrilled because I always was a huge fan of the Man of the Hour feature from Medieval 2.
Oh my God, I love that feature so much.
Because I love to Total War roleplay as much as I can, and the family tree definitely is a step in the right direction for me to do that, and I do that a lot. But Man of the Hour, I love that because I'd have this new Man of the Hour, and then I'd get my princess or something to marry him into the family. The ultimate reward, basically, for fighting on the battlefield. And I thought that was a good system. I can appreciate this stops AI spamming single units or just a couple of units across the map with no generals in, but it would be great to implement some kind of feature that if you want to split your forces, allow you to split your forces, but instantly have a pop-up and say you have to recruit a general to lead this new separate army.
Yes.
And if you have no extra generals available, then you have to wait until one's available or something like that. Or maybe in that sense, maybe you get an option to promote someone through the ranks, and maybe you get 3 options. So maybe there's a guy with loads of natural ability, so he costs the least. Maybe there's a guy who's a senator's son, so it costs a lot because he's actually quite crap, but he's got a good name to him. I don't know, maybe the third option is just, whoever's there, like your captain of your guard, promote him, sort of thing, or just allowing if you want to transfer units from one army to another, as long as you select the units in one army and tell them to go to the other, they'll just travel, and you can't take them off that path to attack other forces because they're in convoy, and maybe that could even start off like an ambush type battle if they are attacked by or intercepted by the AI. Because they're just traveling from one army to another. They're not in full combat ready mode or something like that.
Yeah, I was totally agreeing with you with like that. What if the general had retainers and you could promote one of those retainers? Like in the example of, say, Julius Caesar has the retainer of Mark Antony, and you need to send a small force to go hunt down this one army, this one unit that managed to escape an army, and so you promote Mark Antony to a certain rank and send him off with a couple of cavalry.
Another system that I was toying around the idea with was to create a system of campaigns so that when you send a general, an army to a certain area, that general isn't necessarily attached to an army, but is attached to a campaign. So it gives like this overall sphere where he projects his influence over, and then all those different you can split off different units within his sphere, but you can't send him outside of his sphere.
Without the general, so it's kind of like the general's aura on the battlefield. You
Exactly.
can't send him, so he could be there with his his elite army, but you have all these small forces rallying to your cause around you, and you want to raise new forces or something. But they can't go too far because that's the associated campaign that general's on.
Exactly.
That's cool. Yeah, I like the idea of that.
Like Europa Universalis 4, where you declare war, but you don't just declare war like just with no reason. You have to have a reason for declaring war, and there's a war score in which you must achieve in order to get the goal of your war before you can actually start making demands on your defeated enemy. Whereas in Total War, you declare war and you can just go in the opposite direction if you want to, or you can just you can be at war with somebody for no reason at all and just 50 turns of war with no fighting, and then suddenly get a peace which lasts 1 turn.
And this is one thing that I wrote a piece on diplomacy a while back, where I talked about how when you declare war, the AI should have an idea of what it wants in the war, and what it wants to achieve in the war, and what it wants to prevent you from having in the war. And somebody commented on that saying, do you know how to program? And I personally do not know programming. However, I know what's been done in other games. And that is how the AI functions with Europa Universalis, where every single country has its national security goals and interests. So there are certain provinces it wants. There are certain provinces it wants to prevent its enemies from having, and there are goals to the war. And I think that's something, that kind of a system in diplomacy is something that you can really benefit from in war.
In regard to that, you just direct those people to say a paradox game does that exactly, and they do it well. Like when someone declares war on you, there's a reason, and it's not always I want territory. It might be regime change, religious war. They want to install a puppet governor. They want to subjugate you. They want to annex you or something like that, and that's their war goal. And the AI does it, and it's not pointless either. Like they do it, and it seems like, oh yeah, this makes sense. I mean, it makes sense that they would want the territory on their border that actually shares the same religion as that faction, but not my faction. That makes sense. They don't just go, oh, I'm declaring war on this allied nation, which we've been friends with forever and have excellent relations that we've got a marriage with, because, and they get into a song and dance about it, and then end up with a stalemate peace, which is seemingly happens in Total War.
I completely agree with you on that. I think the way that war is actually thought of, and factions themselves are actually thought of, needs to be a bit more nuanced in Total War than it is right now, in general.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to see for army management is, at the moment, the only way you can get more men in your city is to increase the city size for a garrison. And obviously, if, say, you own all of Spain, all of France, and you're fighting someone in Germany, you don't need a huge garrison on the west coast of Spain. You do need a huge garrison on the east coast of France, or the eastern border of France. So I think I would like to see is, I like the general system as it is. A minor tweak that would make it far more flexible is the general can recruit troops, walk to a town, and drop them off there. They then can't leave, but they can stay there. He's reinforcing the garrison. It's going to cost you in the upkeep if they just sat there and they can't go anywhere because your general's wandered off. So it's not something you're just going to dump absolutely everywhere. I mean, you can only...
that's actually a really good point. And I'd like to bring up the thing that stops that in Total War Attila is the army cap. The fact that you can only, like in the beginning of the game, only recruit 2 armies is stupid. It's ridiculous. I think that you have a certain army cap because it should, and it has been in the past, been entirely based on the amount of armies you can afford or the manpower that you actually have available, not on an arbitrary number based on your arbitrary imperium.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand having a limit on influential generals, which is what it's trying to achieve, but because it's nuked any ability for you to shuffle troops around defensively, it has that other side effect to it. Which is why I'd like to see a way for you to reinforce trouble spots without then having to leave the general there permanently.
What if you can recruit without a general, but you can't move without a general?
That's what I mean. So either you can recruit there without a general, or if you want to make it so the general has to do the recruiting because he's funding it or something. Because I guess the generals were the ones that usually had to raise the funds for armies in Rome, at least I think. So then he would take them and go, "Oi, you lot, you're the garrison here. Stay here. I'll be back next decade. See you later."
Yeah, so you could recruit units in any city or castle, whatever it is, and say you'd have to, if you wanted to move them, you'd have to come along with a general and pick them up, sort of thing. Yeah. So I guess with that, then they'd act as extra garrison.
I mean, it makes that town a lot stronger, but you're paying their full upkeep. You can only support roughly 6 armies of any significance in the game with a big solid empire. If you've suddenly got 10 units defending 3 or 4 of your main cities, that's...
Or you can have my WRE campaign where towards the end I had 12 armies of completely professional best tier troops. Sorry.
Yes, those who have 25 spies.
Yeah, those not being crippled by freaking corruption can do that.
The best and most fun thing I did was just constantly steal their own priests and convert them using their own priests. Because once you convert a priest, he preaches your religion. So it was awesome. Anyways, what if you can have a button that says commit to garrison? Something like, for example, a completely different game again, but taking inspiration from Mountain Blade, where you would go and you would recruit the troops. The general would recruit the troops, and then you would go to the city, and then you would just drop the troops that you wanted to keep in the garrison.
So you could. So with that as well, could you? Because obviously cities and buildings add extra units in as bonuses to your garrison in both Rome 2 and Attila. So with that sort of system, would you propose that if you wanted to, if you were desperate of troops, would you suggest that you could actually take that garrison away into an army and suddenly make a desperate attack somewhere, which would leave your city completely undefended, as well as at the same time, if you had extra troops in your army and maybe if your troops are garrisoned, it actually say, I don't know, decreases upkeep by 20-30% or something like that, so kind of a bit of a bonus. But you could deposit, say, 5 units into your city's garrison itself.
And then you could also have, based on the level of your city, a maximum extra garrison that they could take.
I quite like that. I quite like that feature, actually, that you could... I like that you could both deposit, but also if you could take them out as well, because it's a risk-reward system there that
absolutely.
Especially if you're low on troops.
I believe we've had that.
What's up?
You're in charge. You're in Medieval 2. You're in charge of the garrison as well as the army.
Right.
It's not all just automatic.
Right. Exactly. You have to.
You get a certain amount of free upkeep slots.
Yeah.
We've had all this stuff before. It's just been removed.
Bring it back.
Bring it back. And then some.
I feel like whenever we start talking about Medieval 2, I feel like those old guys, back in my day, we would climb.
We don't have the garrison.
That's totally me. I'm the guy, I reckon, that everyone goes, he's the guy that keeps going on about Medieval 2. Well, that's because it's the best, sorry. Yes, the graphics are outdated, but
I still prefer
it has the features that we need.
Napoleon was really fun. Napoleon was a lot of fun.
Give me Napoleon with Empire's map, I would be set for life.
That is the thing I hear the most. Just Empire's map in Napoleon, because it was a more polished, updated version, and just didn't have that scale. But that's probably because the scale was one of the things that were crippling.
That was crippling, right?
The whole thing. I mean, there were good ideas that were implemented with Empire. It was just the big thing that I saw with Empire in all the previews when they were talking about it was that, oh my god, for the first time ever, naval battles. in a Total War game. Plus, we're giving you the biggest theater of war, 3 theater of wars. Plus, we're giving you all this control over this. The most units we've ever made, all this complexity, and it's it was just too much too soon, really. I mean, probably could have stuck with maybe just Europe and a bit of I don't know. Maybe you don't even need to go to America. Just have them as like trade node little areas or something like that, just to go and trade with and leave it at that, and just tweak the other features.
I would say that the amount of units were not really a problem. It was the AI ability to function with anything was the problem in Total War Attila. Not Total War, Empire. They just were incapable of functioning at all. Like, they'd have an army and could find a way to glitch them out every single time, especially if they were in a fort. Like, they were retarded inside of a fort.
The AI for Empire, you could just have a camera on it and constantly play the circus music, and that would basically fit everything the AI was doing. Anyways, it's been an hour, and we've covered miscellaneous campaign map topics. So next time, I think we can start with unit balance. Yes, Malakith.
You missed skill trees.
Oh, we missed skill trees? Oh, I think Legend has a couple of things to say about skill trees, right, Legend?
Yeah, I got a few things to say about everything. Although I'm not very well known for voicing my opinion, so I don't know if I should.
You sure, buddy? You don't wanna put it out there?
You're always very quiet.
Yeah, it's not really me. Yeah, I don't want to offend anyone. It's just not me.
I'm constantly wondering to myself, but what does Legend really feel?
What is the man beneath the legend like?
I really couldn't be any more bluntly honest, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we want to say something really quickly about skill trees, or do we just want to go on to... do we just want to
Garbage.
As far as I'm concerned, there's 2. There's the military tree and the civil tree. More decisions, more choices, any kind of flexibility.
The legacies in Rome's armies, I just look at them and go, I hate all of them, except for like the top one and the bottom one. Everything in between, I just see it as a just rubbish.
Yeah,
just rubbish.
I'm the same.
It doesn't work either.
With Attila's, like the only ones I really want to get are the immunity to snow attrition, and anything that gives me extra campaign map movement range. Basically, those are the ones I'm interested in.
You don't like the +3 morale while fighting Romans? The unnoticeable bonus.
I'm really good actually with the no plus.
Especially
plus 3.
The only thing that matters in a battle is whether or not your general dies, as far as morale's concerned.
I don't think there were any Romans left when I got access to the +3 Romans.
Although to be fair, every rebel that spawns is most likely to be a Roman rebel.
And I unlocked the immune to snow attrition just as I needed to march into the desert to fight the Sassanids.
Oh yeah, the Huns things. That immune to snow attrition at the very end of the campaign, right after all the snow is all gone. It's so stupid.
Okay, so that was, I think, fairly tight consensus on skill trees.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of them, but just make them way more meaningful, or just, interesting. I like.
It's so not interesting. Yeah.
I like the ones for the Celtic factions a lot more. Is it the Celtic factions, or one of them have like a lot more, and for generals themselves, like for public order, really early on, they're quite useful.
Our Horsey campaign ones are so much better than my Alani ones. Our Afghanian ones, they're so much better, the Celtic things.
Yeah, they're loads better than any of the other factions. It's like they actually thought about them a little bit longer and went, actually, those would be some more useful stuff.
Because they were DLC.
The one that really gets me is admirals.
I heard that.
Admirals, to upgrade their ability with naval units, have to make sure they're really good at drilling infantry troops first.
Yeah. You've got to be master of everything before you actually get to the one thing you want to train in.
Yeah.
Learn everything else there is to know before you learn the thing you want to know.
I feel like... go ahead, Malakith.
I was going to say, you have to make sure you know how to spear wall before you can row.
Exactly.
Priorities, right?
I think that's the big problem with Attila is that nothing seems to make, or a lot of things just don't seem to make a whole lot of cognitive sense. Like, you just think, why is this connected to this? It makes no sense. And why do we have to go through these arbitrary trees to get to something that doesn't seem connected at all?
I feel like what I'm hearing altogether when it comes to this miscellaneous campaign topics is whether it's agents and politics and army management and skill trees. Well, army management was a little bit different, but skill trees definitely is. They have a whole bunch of really good ideas, but they don't matter.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. Where you have a really good idea with agents. Like, agents can be really powerful. But you can go an entire campaign playing on the hardest difficulty, doing the most difficult challenge, as Legend did with his Western Roman Empire campaign, and not even touch agents. And not even touch politics. Not even care about skill trees. And
not even access a single tier 3 unit.
And therein, I think, lies the major problem. Where we have a whole bunch of these features that are really good ideas, and if they mattered, would make a really fun game because you're constantly balancing this and that, but they just don't matter.
Sorry, there was just one thing I just have to throw in there because this is what I found. This is at the end of the campaign, which I found both hilarious and utterly frustrating. I don't know if they fixed this in a recent patch because I haven't played the Grand Campaign since this, but you know the final tech for the military tree of the Western Roman Empire. It says it gives you the upgrade, the forced upgrade, of course, from the crossbow bireme or whatever to the double crossbow bireme, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for one thing, you upgrade it. The unit is exactly the same, except instead of having one ballista on board, it's got 2 ballistas on the deck. The second thing is you can't recruit this unit.
What?
How come?
There is no port. Okay, so
There's no building associated.
You build a port. The crossbow thing with the single ballista is built in a tier 2 military port. The upgraded unit is not built anywhere, so you just lose access to that unit entirely. No more crossbow ships.
Is there any way to get it? Can you not upgrade the single ballista ship?
Yes, but the thing is, if you ever lose those ships, you never ever get any more access to crossbow ships.
Real risk reward. I
The
don't
only way
like
to get it is to upgrade.
I really don't like the fact. I'm sure we'll come onto it next time, but I really
And
don't like the fact.
it is the final tech as well. It's the final tech in the military tree, so it's like the goal to get, and I got it, and I was just like, this is actually detrimental, because not only did this extra unit just replace and then vanish my crossbow triremes, which at this point I really needed, but they're actually hugely more expensive and did nothing extra. Like, you don't get this ship to have ballistas on it, because you get them to get crossbows, and the crossbow units are actually the exact same. They just cost more and are completely not recruitable.
You've taken the blueprint for the original ship, you've scribbled all your modifications on it so you know how to upgrade it, and then gone, oh shit, I don't know how to build the original anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to admit, I'm sure we'll talk about it next time, but I hate the fact that once you upgrade your technology, you cannot come back to the lower tiers.
Yeah.
I know there's like loads of mods now and like overhaul mods that include that ability, but
Yeah. Anyways,
and also, like, the upgraded unit is infinitely more expensive and does very little different.
It's ridiculous when you upgrade, yeah.
I remember when I was playing against the Huns, the unit, the horse archer, was just like, okay, cool, 100. It's 100 cost in upkeep. And here's the next horse archer, and it's 300 cost in upkeep. And it's still a horse archer.
I think that face was he wants to stop.
I switched the video feed over to you, Admiral Price, as you were like,
because we're at 1 hour and 8 minutes, and I think that's quite a bit for...
A bit of a can of worms.
This whole review is going to be a can of worms, bro. But I think that should be it for this time, right? You guys, I think we're comfortable stopping here and picking up and balancing next time.
Covered a fair bit.
We managed a whole 1.5 topics.
Boom.
Out of 7, 8. Cool. So only 3 more parts to go.
Oh yeah, no problem whatsoever. Timeline for this. All right, and I particularly like. I'm very biased to Legends send off. So if Monsieur Total War, you would do us the honor.
What, you want me to do my send off?
Yeah. Malakith's like, no.
It's unusually people usually try and cut off the video in a collaboration before I do my send off.
Oh, I love your send off. It's brilliant.
All right, guys. Well, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time, fuckers.
Make sure everyone goes to his channel and comments and gives lots of suggestions. That's all I'm going to say.
Which have like a little bar that says for any and all feedback, go to Legend of Total War's channel.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah, don't forget lots of advice. I love all the advice of people telling me how to run my own campaigns. I just love it.